What is up, guys? Crypto Roman here. Let's talk about Circle buying Poloniex. Now, this is massive news, and I feel like so many people are missing the big picture here. And I just wanted to do a quick video to get people up to speed about what we've seen and what's been happening, and how I think all of these neat little pieces are starting to fall into place, and what I think is going to happen this year, and why I'm really excited about this news. So for those of you that haven't heard, Circle has recently acquired Poloniex. It's the 14th largest cryptocurrency exchange by volume. They used to be in Bitcoin before, Circle that is. They used to serve customers, consumers buying Bitcoins through their app. They're actually a mobile payment focused business, so they just allow people to send money easily to and from their phones. And they used to allow Bitcoin because of blockchain, the underlying tech. That's what they used for their core business, for mobile payments. So they are no strangers to cryptocurrency, and this move sort of puts them back into the cryptocurrency space, where they recently left in 2016, I believe. They stopped serving Bitcoin purchases through their app. So now they've come back. And they didn't fully leave the space. They did actually, and still do, operate a trading desk, which allows large orders of Bitcoin. So we're talking minimum orders of 250,000, that sort of scale. And they do around $2 billion a month in volume, right? So Circle is still quite a big player in cryptocurrency. They just haven't been in the forefront because they haven't been serving regular consumers, but they are still quite a big player. So this move to buy Poloniex puts them back into that sort of main stage, and they're trying to take back a portion of the market that I guess they feel they've lost. And having seen the massive rally in Bitcoin, no doubt they're kicking themselves for not being a part of that huge rise. And if you've seen Coinbase reporting that they made $1 billion worth of revenue in 2017, I'm sure they're a little bit annoyed that they let that one go. So smart move for them. Fair enough, the reported news is great, no doubt about it, but there's more to it than that. And let's talk about some other things which we've seen, namely another company, I'm sure you've heard of this one, Goldman Sachs, came out and said that they would like to explore having their own trading desk. So in the last year or so, Goldman actually took an interest in Bitcoin and obviously blockchain, the technology, and they've said that they would like to explore this option of getting their own trading desk going. They have actually done some technical analysis on Bitcoin, and they've released some articles and newsletters and updates to their clients saying, look, this is what's happening in the space, here's the technical analysis for it, what we think the price is going to do. Little forays, little testers into the market, and just to see how people react and kind of get their feet a little bit wet. So Goldman is interested in the space, no doubt about it. There's money to be made. Why wouldn't they? And on top of that, we've recently had the SEC come out and state quite clearly for everyone, and be careful here because there's the CFTC and the CSC, which both went to a Senate hearing in the States, and they presented a case for cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in general and just the space as a whole. Now, the positive outlook there was mainly from the CFTC. And even though the SEC did say that, look, we do support the space, it's progress in the financial sector, we don't want to stifle the innovation, we don't want to, I guess, strangle the market as it's just growing. They were a little bit weary about the fact that in the last year, with all of the ICOs happening and all of the money being raised, not a single token approached the SEC trying to register themselves as a security. And that was a bit of a red flag for them. They said, look, there's a lot of this sort of money being raised without the involvement of the SEC and without being classified as a security. And that does worry us because nothing's happened up until now. No one has approached us. And all of these new ICOs coming out in this year, in 2018, not a single one of them has approached us as yet. So it's sort of a fine balance for them between, do we just clamp down on what's happening, or do we let the market run and we don't really want to stamp it out too quickly, even though we're not fans of what's happening. That's my interpretation anyway, but they're just being very cautious. So how do all of these things come together with this announcement that Circle's buying Poloniex? Well, interesting news, interesting little bit of fact there. Goldman Sachs is one of the major investors in Circle. Cool, right? So Goldman, who have previously stated that they would like to get into cryptocurrencies, set up a trading desk, start having a piece of the pie, they've made this Series C investment in Circle. So they've invested, I believe the whole round was about 50 million, and they were one of the lead investors. So they have a decent stake in the company itself. And this is going to give them a nice little bit of exposure to the cryptocurrency market, both through Circle's trading desk operation and now through their cryptocurrency exchange acquisition of Poloniex. It's letting Goldman have a silent hand in the cryptocurrency space without being at the very forefront. So they're playing it quite smart. Top it all off with a leaked confidential slide from a presentation by Circle, which actually shows that they've been in discussions with the SEC. So they've actually met with the SEC and they've said, look, with this acquisition, we want to be regulated, we want to play it above board, we want your approval, we want to set up a legitimate cryptocurrency exchange which is regulated and has oversight. SEC loves it, right? They're all over them. They're saying, great, fantastic. We will actually ignore everything that's happened with Poloniex up until this point. So I'm not going to pursue any sort of issues that we may have had in the past. We're going to work with you now progressively to encourage more people to do the same thing. They're setting a good example by doing this, and SEC has everything to gain by this move. So another part of that little SEC interaction supposedly was the fact that they want to set up not just a cryptocurrency exchange, but a token platform. What I mean by that is a platform where you can have your ICO, much in the same way that an IPO happens, raise funds, and do it all while being classified as a security. Big deal for ICOs, right? This is where all the dots are starting to come together. You have Goldman Sachs, who wants to get into cryptocurrency, who obviously has a ton of experience with successful IPOs and taking companies public and whatnot. They've wanted to get into the space. They now have a way, through the shadows, kind of sneakily, without being at the very forefront, to have a taste of the market. And Circle is playing this very, very correctly, because they've gone directly to the SEC and they've said, look, we want to be regulated. We want to have a legitimate pathway, a corridor for various ICOs to go through us when they raise this crazy amount of money that you're seeing being raised, month after month, year after year. So now the SEC actually has a way to clamp down on any ICOs which do not take a legitimate pathway, whereas previously they didn't want to stifle the innovation, they didn't want to stump out the sector. So obviously if you don't have a legitimate pathway to raise money for your ICO, it becomes very difficult for a regulator to take a stance which the public will respect. I mean, you're talking about a growing market which millennials love, right? They love it more than stocks, more than traditional investments. And you're going to put a clamp down on that? Doesn't play that well. But now if you have a legitimate pathway to say, look, well, there is a cryptocurrency exchange, there's an ICO platform where you can launch your token as a security. It's going to have all the supervision and regulation that we require to ensure that consumers are safe without being overly aggressive in regulations and making all of these different tokens jump through like 20 different types of regulations and hoops. I'm sure there'll be a middle ground there, and it lets them introduce a little bit more firmer restrictions and actually start going after some of these tokens by directing them towards a company like Circle, which obviously they're fans of because they have approached them to make that relationship. You can see why I'm excited, guys, because the only other company that's spoken about this sort of pathway is actually Overstock. They came out maybe a year or so ago and they said, we want to do a platform for tokens. We want to pivot our business away from just being a retailer who accepts cryptocurrencies and actually create a platform for funds to be raised, for tokens to be exchanged. We want to be not only a cryptocurrency exchange, but also a token platform, right? And they were the first ones to do this as far as I'm aware, and that was big at the time. then they went silent. Obviously they're in stealth mode now, trying to get this thing off the ground. And now they've got a little bit of competition from Circle and obviously Goldman Sachs trying to do the same thing. So this leads me to 2018. What's going to happen? Well, with both of these companies going at it, it's going to be very interesting to see just how this plays out, who gets to the market first, obviously. And another point, the way that it's been progressing, right? We saw futures launch towards the end of last year. Now we're seeing this sort of Circle overstock transition to a ICO platform come to fruition, and hopefully we'll see it happen, this year rather than later. It'll be interesting to see how far away ETFs are. So that I see ETFs as the holy grail, right? That's the top of the pyramid for, pardon the pun, pyramid. That's the very top of investment options, making the entire space far more legitimate, right? So once you have ETFs, you will see a flood of money pour into it, right? You're no longer just having people play with cryptocurrencies. You're no longer having people raise money through cryptocurrencies. You have actual institutions hedging by holding cryptocurrencies, not just futures, but the actual underlying asset. That's a very big deal, and that's when you see the market really explode. And with these sorts of moves, with the connections that have now happened between Goldman, Circle, and the SEC, quietly stirring in the background, I see 2018 as being the year when all of this comes to fruition. And in my opinion, we will see ETFs by the end of the year or early 2019. So, lot to take in, right? Big video, I know. I've tried to do it in a slightly different format. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I mean, at this point, it is just my opinion. It's speculation, but I'm hoping you can put some of these dots together yourself. And yeah, we'll see how it all plays out. See you in the next one.